This happened a few years ago. I was 35 and a history teacher. My wife and I decided to take our kids to a cabin deep in the woods. We needed to reconnect after a tough year. I thought it would be the perfect getaway. Just my family, me, my wife, and our 2 boys. The cabin looked charming. It had this rustic feel with creaky floorboards and dim lights. I remember sitting on the porch, listening to the distant river and the rustling leaves. I felt good about our choice. But maybe I was ignoring something. That first night, I woke up to a rustling sound outside. I pulled myself out of bed and looked out the window. I didn't see anything, so I brushed it off. My youngest son, though, kept saying he saw a figure moving between the trees. I didn't know how to calm him down. It was silly, right? But the look on his face said otherwise. Days went by, and I noticed strange things. I found weird symbols scratched into the walls. At first I shrugged it off, but then my family started having nightmares. They'd wake up screaming. My wife said she felt someone watching her. I wanted to believe it was just our minds playing tricks in that eerie setting. One afternoon I stepped outside to clear my head. I saw something on the ground, worn-out trinkets and bits of fabric. They looked out of place. My heart raced. I picked one up, and a chill ran down my spine. I called for my family to come outside. But when they got there, the items were gone. I was sure I'd seen them, yet they vanished. Things escalated quickly after that. One night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Suddenly, I thought I heard whispers coming from the woods. It felt cold. I didn't want to check, but I couldn't ignore it either. My heart was pounding. I couldn't make out what they were saying. It was like something was trying to reach out to us. Then came the last night. Everything changed. I saw the figure. It stood at the edge of the tree line, motionless. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My wife grabbed my arm and I told her to look. But when she did, there was nothing there. I couldn't explain it. Was it all in our heads? Or was something in those woods calling for us? After we got back home, I kept replaying those moments in my mind. I wondered about the cabin, the whispers, and the figure. I knew something wasn't right. I often heard my son talk about it too. He asked questions I didn't have answers to. One night, he asked me, "Dad, what did we see?" I didn't know what to say. When I lay in bed, I felt like the woods were still watching us, holding on to something. I can't shake the feeling that we stumbled upon something we shouldn't have. And even now, I keep asking myself, were we just imagining it all? Or did something follow us back? It had been a few weeks since we returned from the cabin, but the memories haunted me. I found it hard to enjoy anything, as my mind kept drifting back to the whispers and shadows. My wife noticed. She'd catch me staring off into space, lost in thought. "We need to move on," she'd say, trying to ease the tension. I wanted to believe her, but then something happened that made it all come rushing back. One evening, I was cleaning out the attic. It was time to get rid of things we didn't need anymore. As I rummaged through dusty boxes, I came across an old photo album. It was filled with memories from when my kids were younger, family trips, birthday celebrations, all the good stuff. I flipped through the pages, smiling at their smiling faces. But then I found something odd tucked between the pages. It was a small torn piece of fabric, light gray with dark stains on it. It didn't belong to us. I felt the hair on my neck stand up. Was this the same fabric I had seen near the cabin? I had no way of knowing, but an uneasy feeling gripped me. Later that night, I held the fabric tightly while trying to sleep. Sleep didn't come easy. The darkness felt thicker, more oppressive. I couldn't shake the sensation that there was something waiting for me in that darkness, something I couldn't see. And then I heard it again. Whispers, soft and almost melodic. I shot up in bed, my heart racing. "Do you hear that?" I asked my wife. She groaned and turned away, clearly not interested. It was so quiet, but the whispers grew louder. They seemed to flow in from the shadows in the corners of our room. I mustered the courage to get up and went to the window. I pulled back the curtain, heart in my throat. Nothing outside, just the stillness of the night. Was I being paranoid? The next day, I decided to drive back to the cabin. I had to. I needed answers. I'd hoped that returning would give me some clarity. I packed the car and told my wife I was going to run an errand. She didn't ask any questions. Maybe she thought I was buying groceries. When I arrived back at the cabin, I was surprised at how quickly nostalgia washed over me. The air was heavy. I approached the porch and felt a chill trickle down my spine. It all looked the same, yet different somehow. The woods seemed thicker, denser. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I was doing the right thing. Then I walked inside, and that's when I noticed something new. The symbols on the walls were more pronounced, almost glowing. I hadn't seen them like this before. I ran my fingers over the grooves, and a jolt shot through me. I felt a connection to the place, as if it was responding to my touch. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered and shadows danced around me. The whispers became frantic, echoing in my mind. I knew there was something here, and it wanted to be found. I stumbled backward, panic gripping me. That's when I saw it, a figure, just beyond the tree line again. But this time, it stepped closer. What did it want? I needed to know. That's when something even stranger happened. A voice, clear as day, whispered my name. I felt like I was being pulled towards it, towards that figure. And for the first time, I understood. We were never meant to leave. The figure stepped further into the clearing, and my breath caught in my throat. It was tall and cloaked in shadows, faceless, but undeniably there. I felt a wave of heat rush through me, mingling with that chilling fear. I wanted to run, but something kept me rooted to the spot as if the ground held my feet in place. "Who are you?" I shouted into the empty space, my voice trembling. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it gestured towards the cabin, and my heart raced with a mix of dread and curiosity. Against my better judgment, I took a step forward. I could feel the whispers intensifying. They wrapped around me like a thick fog, pressing against my ears, urging me to come closer. My mind screamed to turn back, but my legs felt heavy, dragging me toward that dark silhouette. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the clearing, and with it came a rush of images. Brief flashes of faces I didn't recognize, scenes of laughter intertwined with pain. It was overwhelming. I staggered, trying to regain my balance, clenching the torn fabric in my fist. With one final glance at the figure, I turned back to the cabin. I needed to understand. With shaky hands, I pushed open the door. Inside, the air felt electric, but quiet. The symbols on the walls pulsed subtly, as if alive. I went straight to the fireplace, where I remembered finding that strange object last time. It was still there, a rough stone shaped like a heart, etched with markings similar to those on the cabin walls. I picked it up, feeling its weight in my palm. The moment I did, a violent rush of memories struck me, the whispers now shouting in my mind. I saw my children's smiling faces mingled with shadows, their laughter fading into cries. "Please," I cried out, clutching my head. And then, as if in response, those whispers transformed. They became understandable words. "Help us. Find us." My heart raced. I was terrified but compelled. I had to know what had happened, who they wanted me to help. I stumbled back out of the cabin, the stone still clutched tightly in my hand. The figure stood waiting at the edge of the woods, now crystal clear. I felt the pull again, stronger than before. "Please, I can't leave without knowing," I whispered to the air. Before I could think it through, I walked toward the figure, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Questions swirled in my mind as the whispers continued to call out, weaving a web of confusion. Just as I reached the place where the trees began to thicken, a sudden thunderclap echoed above and the ground shook beneath me. I stumbled but caught myself. What was happening? I turned to run back to the safety of the cabin, but the figure raised its arm, and in that moment, everything shifted. A blinding light surrounded me. I found myself standing in a different place altogether, surrounded by the whispering shadows of the woods. The figure was nowhere to be seen, but I sensed that I was not alone, and that realization filled me with dread. I had entered a new layer of this nightmare, and I had no idea how to find my way back. I stood in silence, the woods around me thick and dark. The shadows felt alive, moving in ways that made me shiver. I glanced around, searching for any sign of the figure or whatever had brought me to this place. "Hello?" My voice felt small, swallowed by the heavy air. No reply came, just the whispers, now echoing faintly in the distance. I felt the stone in my hand, warm to the touch, pulsing as if it could sense my mounting anxiety. A wave of determination surged through me, and I decided to move forward. The ground crunched beneath my feet as I took cautious steps deeper into the trees. I kept reminding myself that I had to uncover the truth. The whispers grew louder, swirling around me, an unsettling chorus calling out from the depths of the forest. Then, from the corner of my eye, I caught a flicker of movement. I turned quickly but saw nothing. Was it my imagination? The shadows danced among the trees, playing tricks on my mind. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but the sense that something was watching me sank in. As I continued, I stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood an old well, its stone walls cracked and overgrown with moss. I felt drawn to it, a connection sparking, as if the well held secrets waiting to be uncovered. I approached cautiously. Peering into its depths, I felt a rush of vertigo. The darkness seemed endless. Leaning in closer, I noticed something glimmering at the bottom. My heart raced. What was down there? Suddenly the whispers surged again, but this time they wove into a single urgent command. "Look closer." I hesitated but knew I had to. Kneeling beside the well, I strained to see what it was. My fingers brushed the surface of the stone, sending a shiver through my arm. That's when I saw it, faces contorted, their mouths opening and closing as if trying to scream. I gasped, pulling back. "No!" The vision vanished, the faces erased by the darkness of the well. My heart pounded in my ears. What had I just seen? Panic gripped me. These were the faces of those I lost. A warmth spread across my chest, mixing with cold dread. Then I heard something else, a soft rustling nearby. I turned swiftly, scanning the tree line. My breath caught. A figure emerged from the shadows, not the one I had seen before, but a child. Wide eyes stared back at me, filled with a mix of fear and something else. Hope. "Help us," they whispered, voice trembling like a leaf in a storm. My heart sank as I felt the weight of the stone in my hand again. "Wait. Where are your parents?" I wanted to reach out, but fear held me back. The child stepped closer, and I could see now the contours of their face, familiar yet foreign. "You have to save them. They need you." Before I could respond, another flicker of movement caught my attention. A shadow darted past, and I turned my head just in time to see it disappear into the darkness. "What was that?" I asked the child, panic rising in my voice. But the child's expression shifted to one of deep concern. "We don't have much time. They're coming." That one statement sent a chill down my spine. I felt unwelcome in this place, and the urgency was palpable. I had to make a choice. With a rush of adrenaline, I turned back to the well, feeling the pull of curiosity and dread. I needed answers, answers that might just save them. But as I leaned in one last time, the earth trembled beneath me again, and I knew I was not alone. Something was watching, and it was closing in. I froze, my senses heightened. The whispers transformed into a cacophony of unsettling sounds, merging into a single foreboding tone. I could feel the presence closing in, its energy cutting through the heavy air like a knife. "Stay back," I whispered to the child, my voice shaky. The warning felt pointless, but it was all I could think to say. I wanted to protect them, but I didn't even know who, or what, we were up against. The shadows shifted around us, a dark veil curling and twisting. From the depths of the forest came an echoing growl, deep and menacing. I glanced back at the child, their eyes wide with fear. Panic surged within me. I couldn't afford to freeze. I had to act. "Can you run?" I asked, hoping for a nod, but the child only stared, trapped in fear. "Save them," they insisted, their voice cracking. I took a step back, my instincts battling between flight or curiosity. The well called to me, the glimmering object still whispering sharp promises of answers buried in its darkness. Then I made my choice. I couldn't run yet. I needed to uncover just what had drawn me here. I crouched beside the well again, scanning the bottom. I had glimpsed the faces before, but now I had to confront them. Perhaps understanding them would lead to salvation. As I focused, the images returned. The faces twisted in sorrow, mouths opening and closing, still in desperate cries for help. I felt a pang of familiarity as I recognized one face. It was my sister, lost years ago. The shock grounded me. "Please help us," her lips whispered, though the words were muted and drained of life. I recoiled, clutching the stone as if it were a lifeline. This was beyond what I had expected. "Stop it! Stop!" I shouted at the well, filled with equal parts rage and fear. The shadow lurked closer, feeding off my turmoil. "Breathe," I told myself, forcing calm back into my veins. I needed to grasp the situation. "What did you see?" the child asked, peering at me intently, even as shadows swirled around us. I saw faces," I stammered, still grappling with the emotions that washed over me. "People who need help. My family. I can't." A roar erupted around us, shaking the very ground. The shadows parted violently as a larger figure emerged, briefly illuminated by a flicker of pale moonlight. Its form was indistinct, but its presence was a solid wall of terror. I scrambled back, my heart racing. "Run!" I yelled to the child, urgency pouring through my words, but the child didn't move. "I won't leave you," they shouted, stepping toward the figure instead. "We have to face it together." This was madness, but I felt something shift within me. Perhaps I wasn't alone in this chaos. The stone in my hand throbbed, filled with newfound energy. Gathering every ounce of courage, I pushed myself up, joining the child. It was now or never. We would confront this darkness together. Just as I made my decision, the growling intensified, and the figure stepped forward, revealing jagged teeth glinting in the darkness. Then it lunged. I closed my eyes, the scream caught in my throat, and braced for the impact, not sure if I would sink into darkness or find a way to save us both. I felt the rush of air as the creature lunged at us. Time seemed to slow as I braced myself, but then, nothing. I opened my eyes cautiously, half expecting to see dark jaws closing in on me. Instead, the creature had halted in midair, just a breath away. The shadow loomed, but it paused, as if contemplating us. I could see its massive form more clearly now. It had a haunting, almost human quality to it. A figure draped in shadows, fangs bared, but with the outline of a face that seemed vaguely familiar. My heart pounded louder than the growl that echoed deep within its chest. "You!" I gasped, recognizing the shape. The resemblance was uncanny. Could it be? "You're—" The child squeezed my hand tightly, breaking me from my trance. "What is it?" they whispered, eyes darting between me and the creature. "I think it's someone I knew," I said, voice shaky. Despite the fear surging through me, a flicker of determination ignited. It might be my sister, or what's left of her, or what's... The creature seemed to respond to my words. It leaned closer, its grotesque features shifting as if it were trying to comprehend my surprise. I could swear that, for a moment, I saw the memory of my sister's smile hiding somewhere in its shadowy depths. "Do you see her?" the child asked, confusion mixed with fear in their voice. "I don't know," I admitted, fighting the tears that threatened to spill over. "But I think she's trapped here, just like the others." The shadows around us flickered ominously, and I could feel the energy shifting. The creature let out a low growl again, but it was different this time. It wasn't just a threat. It felt desperate, almost sorrowful. "Maybe it needs our help," I whispered, barely believing my own thoughts. Could it be possible that the monster before us was crying for salvation rather than destruction? "Don't get too close," the child urged, but my heart told me otherwise. The stone in my hand pulsed again, sending waves of warmth through me. There had to be a connection, something deeper than fear. Wait, I said, slowly moving forward. Can you hear me? If you're really her, I need you to show me. The creature's growl softened, and for an instant, its form wavered. I felt the ground tremble beneath my feet, echoing the turmoil within the creature. It needed something. Answers, attention, maybe even forgiveness. Together? I asked the child, looking back for support. Their nod was hesitant but resolute. I stretched out my free hand, the stone glowing softly. Come back to us. But just then, a howl pierced the night, cutting through the tension like a knife. It was louder than before, and with it came a swarm of dark shapes surging from the shadows, eyes glimmering with menace. The air thickened with their presence. The shadows won't let her go, I realized, panic flaring again. Before I could react, the creature roared, a sound filled with anger and fear, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. It was now or never. We had to fight, not just for ourselves, but for those trapped in this shadowy realm. Then everything blurred, and I found myself pulled back by the child's steady grip as the shadows closed in. No! We have to stay! I yelled, realizing we were about to be overwhelmed. The world around us darkened further, and the last shred of light faded as the shadows engulfed us. I could hear the growling growing louder, drowning out all other sound. Hold on, I shouted, gripping the stone tightly, a desperate plea reverberating in my chest. That's when I felt it. An electric flicker in the air, a possibility I hadn't dared consider. A way to fight back. But could we harness it in time? Just as the shadows closed in on us, I felt the pulsating energy of the stone surge through my fingers, jolting me out of the rising panic. It was bizarre. A strange connection to the creature before me. A link between our worlds. The glow intensified, illuminating the darkness, and in that moment I saw the creature flinch. It was as if the light pushed against its very essence, forcing it to rethink its next move. Now! I yelled to the child, breaking the spell of fear. We have to focus on her together. Look for something. Anything that will connect us to her. The child nodded, eyes wide, absorbing the strange glow emanating from the stone. I could see their tiny frame quivering, but an unexpected resolve flickered in their expression. The echoes of the growls surrounded us, but I focused my heart on the creature, channeling my thoughts toward my sister. Where are you? I shouted. We're here to help. Please, show us what you need. For a moment, the creature hesitated, as if my voice reached some hidden part of it. The growling softened further, fading into a low murmur like a storm passing just outside our sanctuary. The darkness dimmed, revealing the faces of other shadowy figures lingering nearby. They seemed drawn to the glow, just as I was. Suddenly, one of the shadows lunged at us. Watch out! The child screamed, pulling me away from the onslaught. But the stone flared brighter, sending a beam of light that knocked the shadow back, freezing it momentarily in place. There was fear in its eyes, just like in mine. Keep talking, the child urged through clenched teeth, clutching my arm tight. Okay, I said, determined. Listen, you're not alone. We can find a way out. Together. The creature's eyes flickered with something more than rage. It was confusion, almost recognition. And with each word I spoke, I felt the bond deepening. Something in the landscape felt different now, the shadows retreating before our growing light. That's when I saw it. A flash of light bursting forth from the creature's chest. It flickered a vibrant blue, mirroring the stone in my hand. I pointed it out to the child. Do you see that? That's her. But as if the shadows understood my realization, the swarm charged forward, darkness rushing back to reclaim what it loathed to lose. Surges of cold air whipped around us, and the growls transformed into screams of rage. Can we hold it back? The child squeaked, glancing nervously at the shadows pressing in. I don't know, I shouted. But we can't let them take her. Taking a deep breath, adrenaline coursing through me, I raised the stone high. The light flared again, and I felt the earth tremble beneath me. You have to fight, I urged the creature. Fight for her. As if my plea reached a new realization, the creature roared once more, and I saw it push against the shadows, a fierce and determined sound that resonated through every fiber of my being. But then, within the chaos, I noticed a change. Something deep within the dark vortex around us shifted, as figures began to separate, revealing glimpses of faces I thought lost forever. "Who are they?" my companion breathed, clutching my arm tighter as they gasped. Uncertainty knotted in my stomach. "More like her," I muttered, a chill creeping over me. "Friends, family." And just like before, the shadows surged, even fiercer than before. I felt the pull of desperation in the air as we battled against the swell of darkness closing in. I had to protect her. Protect all of them. The creature charged forward instead, breaking through the looming shadows surrounding us. Then something snapped, a tear in the fabric of this dark realm. "Hold on!" I yelled, but an overwhelming force slammed into us, scattering the light across fragments of fear and anger. The world spun violently, and I had no way of knowing where we would end up next. Would I lose everything, or could I pull them back to the light? When the wind died down and silence fell, I found myself standing alone in a desolate void. The stone dimmed in my hand. The child was gone. "Where are you?" I whispered, dread curling in my chest. Then, the shadows shifted again, revealing a sinister shape lurking just beyond the edges of my sight. It was watching. I stood frozen in that empty void, tears brimming in my eyes. The shadows flickered, a dark dance of confusion and malevolence. I could feel my heart racing, my breath quickening. What had I done? That form, that sinister shape, shifted closer. It was hard to define in the absence of light, but I could sense its malevolence in the air. I gripped the stone tighter as it glimmered faintly, but the glow was nothing compared to before. My mind raced. I searched for the child, for my sister, but my calls fell into the void, unanswered. "Please," I whispered. "Just show me a sign." And then, unexpectedly, the shadows parted slightly. A figure stepped forward. My heart sank. It was hard to tell if it was a friend or foe. Its features were obscured, almost blurred. Yet something in its presence stirred a long-buried memory. "Help me!" it rasped, the voice like gravel crunching underfoot. "I'm trapped." I recognized the voice, but how could that be? "Who are you?" I asked, knowing full well I didn't want to hear the answer. "It's me," it replied, a hint of desperation cutting through the darkness. "Elena." I felt as if the ground had shifted beneath me. Elena, the sister I thought lost, the one I was fighting to find. "But you, I thought you were—" My voice trailed off, a mix of joy and confusion swirling inside me. "Look closer," she urged, stepping further into the dim light. The shadows clung to her like a fog, though faint glimpses of her features began to materialize. "I'm not whole. They took part of me. Part of all of us." "What do you mean?" I moved forward instinctively, but felt a barrier of cold despair push back against me. "The shadows feed on our fears," she said, her voice laced with urgency. "You have to help us break free. Together. But you must act fast. They are coming for you too." As if her words summoned them, the sinister shape from before twisted, moving closer. Panic surged through me, but I couldn't let Elena's voice evaporate into the void. "No!" I shouted, raising the dim stone high as I pushed against that chilling barrier. "I won't let them take you again." But the darkness retaliated. It whipped around me, twisting and coiling like a serpent, trying to bind me. I couldn't let it happen. "Elena!" I cried, searching for the light in her eyes. Suddenly the shadows flickered, revealing glimmers of what seemed like other figures trapped within. Each one wore a mask of fear, their eyes filled with a silent plea. They echoed Elena's words. "Help us!" Everything inside me screamed to flee. But as I fought against the damage from earlier, I pushed back, drawing from the tiny light still flickering in the stone. "We will fight together," I yelled, my voice steadying. "I will not abandon any of you." The ground beneath me roared to life, trembling with energy as the shadows shrieked in response. The darkness began to pull away as I focused on the bond that tied me to my sister, to the others. I could feel the light pushing back, a tide of determination rising to meet the encroaching shadows. And then, I caught a glimpse, something swirling behind them, dark and restless, like a gaping wound opening in the fabric of the world. I swallowed hard. If I didn't act quickly, I might lose all of them. "Hold on! We're getting out of here!" I shouted again, clenching the stone tightly, drawing all my courage. But before I could take another step, the ground beneath me shattered, plunging me into an even deeper abyss. I fell, the sensation of weightlessness engulfing me. The light from the stone winked out, and I was consumed by darkness. I braced for impact, my heart racing with a fear that clutched at my chest. When I landed, it wasn't on solid ground. I was surrounded by whispering shadows, the air thick and heavy. They danced around me, a cacophony of muted voices, echoes of fear and despair. Panic surged again, but I had to find my sister. I had to find Elena. "Where are you?" I called into the darkness, my voice trembling. I couldn't tell if I was answered or if the whispering was just my imagination. A shimmer caught my eye. I turned, and before me stood another figure, cloaked in shadow but with eyes that glinted like stars. It stepped closer, its outline sharp against the blackness. "Esperanza?" "No," it said, a hand raised. "Not her." Its deep voice resonated, but I recognized the fear behind it. "I'm not one of them." "Who are you?" I asked, instinctively going on guard. "What do you want?" "I want to help you," it replied, its voice filled with urgency. "But you must trust me even if it feels impossible." "Impossible is all I've known since this started," I snapped, desperation spilling over. "Where is Elena?" "Safe for now," it answered. "But she won't be for long if we don't move. This place is alive and it feeds on your doubt." The darkness shifted tighter around us, like a tightening noose. "What do you mean?" "How do you know Elena?" "My name is Kale," it introduced itself with a soft urgency. "We are connected through the shadows. I can sense her, as I can sense your resolve. You came here for her, but you are being tracked." "Tracked?" I shuddered. The shadows shifted again, their whispers growing frantic. I remembered the figures trapped in the darkness, and fear gripped me anew. "What do I need to do?" "You have to embrace the light," Kyle instructed, stepping closer. "Use the stone and let its glow guide you. The shadows are strong, but they can be challenged." I hesitated, glancing down at the stone. Its light flickered faintly, as if it were encouraging me to act. But was it enough? Before I could decide, the ground shook violently. "We need to go," Kyle shouted, grabbing my arm. I felt a surge of energy, a pulse that radiated from him, and instinctively, I latched on. Just then, a monstrous roar echoed through the abyss, and the darkness surged forward, eager to consume us. "This way!" Kyle yelled, pulling me into a narrow passage that twisted and turned. Waves of darkness crashed around us like a storm, but as I focused on the stone, I could feel its warmth growing. I closed my eyes for a moment, envisioning Elena's face and the bond we shared. "Stay with me," I shouted, feeling the shadows pulling against my will. We stumbled into a small clearing. The stone blazed in my hands, illuminating the area. I felt a flicker of hope, but that was when I saw it. A vast shadow looming in the dark corner, watching me with a hungry gaze. My heart plummeted. "Kyle, what is that?" He turned pale. "That is what hunts us. We must move. Quickly." I didn't dare look back, but I knew we couldn't run forever. The darkness roared again and adrenaline coursed through me. The stone's glow began to dim, just as the beast stirred, preparing to chase. Would I have the strength to hold back the shadows and protect my sister? The realization struck me that I needed to choose, fight or flee. And as Kale pulled me forward, I could feel the shadows closing in. I had to find a way out before they dragged us back into despair. I ran after Kale, fear propelling me forward. The shadows thrashed behind us, clawing at the air and eager to engulf us. I clutched the stone tightly, feeling its warmth as though it pulsed in rhythm with my racing heart. Cale led me toward a broader clearing, and as we stepped into its openness, I could see the faint outlines of trees beyond. "Can you see that?" Cale pointed toward a flickering light in the distance. It wasn't the pale glow of the stone, but something more vivid and inviting. "That's where we need to go. It might lead us to safety." I nodded, desperation mingling with a flicker of hope. The stone shone brighter in my hand, as if sensing our urgency. But the roar of darkness echoed behind us, reminding me time was running out. "Let's go," I shouted, pushing myself to keep pace. We sprinted toward the light, branches snagging at my clothes and leaves crunching underfoot. Just as I thought we were gaining distance, the shadows surged forward, coiling and snapping like angry serpents. Cale glanced back, fear etched on his face. "Faster!" With an adrenaline-fueled burst, we dashed ahead. The light grew brighter, illuminating our path. I could almost feel its warmth wrapping around me like a soft blanket against the chill of our pursuers. But the darkness was relentless. I could sense it closing in on me and Cale, its essence like a predator watching its prey. "Just a little further," I urged, my voice hoarse. The distance to the light shrank, yet the shadows surged, and I felt claws graze my shoulder. Panic rose inside me, but I wouldn't let fear conquer us. I had to focus. Kyle gritted his teeth and urged me onward. "Hold on to the light. Together." Finally, we broke into the clearing, and I gasped as the radiance enveloped us. It was brighter than the sun, pure and overwhelming, illuminating everything around us, a stark contrast to the darkness chasing us. As I turned to look back, the shadows halted at the edge of the light, thrashing like wild animals but unable to cross. In that moment, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. We had found a sanctuary, a collision of light and shadow. "Are we safe?" I managed, breathing heavily. Kyle turned toward me, his eyes wide but a flicker of hope igniting within them. "For now, yes. But we can't stay here. It will find another way." Just then, I heard a soft voice from behind us. "Help!" My stomach dropped, and I spun around, searching the glowing light for the source. There, slightly obscured within the glow, was Elena. My heart swelled and broke all at once. "Don't come closer," I cried, instinctively reaching out. "Stay back, it's not safe." But she didn't move, her figure flickering like a candle about to extinguish. "You have to break the seal," she whispered, and the words felt laden with urgency. "It's the only way to free us. Free me." "What do you mean? How?" My voice trembled. "The light. It holds power. And so does the darkness," she replied, her voice fading in and out. "There's a way to unite them, to create balance. But you must act now." My heart raced at the gravity of her words, and I exchanged glances with Cale. "What do we need to do?" I asked, desperation rising within me. "Use the stone. Focus on the bond," Cale instructed, turning his eyes back to Elena. "But be careful. The shadows will try to tear you apart." I nodded, gritting my teeth against the fear that clawed at my insides. "Elena, I'll save you." As I raised the stone high, it began to pulse. Part of the shadow still writhed at the edge of the light, but the flicker of hope ignited in my chest. "Come back to me. We're in this together," I called out, directing the energy of the stone toward the light, the darkness, and the connection we once had. The shadows howled as they rushed forward, but I felt their energies shift, merging and swirling. I concentrated, letting the memories flood my mind. Moments of laughter, of joy, of love. "Elena, I won't let you go." Her figure started to distort, then solidify as tendrils of darkness reached out for her. "Please," she cried, and I felt the weight of her plea. Drawing upon the light, I let hope fill my heart. With one final exertion of will, I shouted, "I'm bringing you home." The stone exploded in a flurry of dazzling light, piercing through the foggy dark. Whispers erupted into a crescendo of screams as the shadows began to unravel, released from their grip. I felt a pull towards Elena as she shifted between the realms of light and dark, hesitating at the edge. "Come on," I urged. And at that moment, the stone flared brighter and brighter, illuminating everything around me. Elena reached out, stretching toward us. Kyle moved forward too, and together we reached her. The energy enveloped us, the shadows shrieked, and the corrupted darkness faded into a distant echo. A rush of wind whirled through the clearing, and in an instant, we stood united in the light, a family again. But just as quickly the light dimmed, and I questioned whether it was real or what might still linger in the shadows. I glanced around, trying to catch my breath. "Did we do it?" I asked nervously. For a moment, all was stillness and clarity. But then I felt it, a whisper, soft but persistent, weaving through the trees. My heart sank. "I still think the shadows linger," Kyle said quietly, his gaze distant. Elena's face twisted in uncertainty, but then she looked at me, her expression evoking strength. "You brought us back, but there's more to the story. We can't ignore it. Not yet." I felt a heaviness settle in my chest. The shadows might be contained, but their threat remained. I took a deep breath, glancing towards the darkness lurking on the edges of the clearing. "I'll find a way," I declared, determination flaring within me. "I'll protect my family, and I'll uncover the truth, whatever it takes." But as I stared into the dense trees, I couldn't shake the feeling, the lingering questions, the possibility that this was far from over. The forest might be silent for now, but I knew better. And so, while I brought my family back to the light, I couldn't forget the darkness of the woods. We left the clearing, the whispers following us, a promise of a journey that had only just begun.